No John yet. I'll circle back. Kenny Curley,
Here.
Pam Delabar,
Here.
Kathy Dunham,
Here.
George Eigenhauser,
Here.
Mark Hannon,
Here.
Yukiko Hayata,
Here.
Carol Krasnowski,
Here.
Rich Maston,
Here.
Melanie Morgan,
Here.
Pam Moser,
Here.
Paula Noble,
Here.
Karen Roy,
Here.
Michael Shelton,
Here.
Russell Webb. No Russell yet.
I see him. He's on my screen.
And he's not on mute. Russell, are you with us? Annette Wilson.
Here.
I also see John Kalila has joined the meeting.
Here, I have problem getting in, sorry.
That's okay. And I'm visually acknowledging that Russell Webb is here. From central office is Eileen Tartaglia.
Here.
And is James Simbro on the call today?
I am here.
Good morning. Shelley Perkins.
Here.
From our ID, we have Matthew Wong.
Here.
Is Eva Chen on the call? All righty. I have completed the roll call and I will turn it back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Rachel. Good morning again, everyone. Welcome to the second day of the October 2022 board meeting. Would like to just ask the board, are there any additions to the orders of today? Rachel?
I need to announce the judging program results, just a note of that. Also, this morning, we received the mentor newbie report, which I was just in the process of trying to send to everyone for item number 26.
Rachel, when do you want to do the announcement of the judges?
I can do that at the beginning of the meeting if you'd like, since it's a holdover from yesterday.
All right, you want to make a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
George seconds.
Thank you, George. Any objections to Rachel presenting the results of the votes on the judges at the beginning of today's meeting? Kathy, you're not an objection, correct?
No, I am not.
Okay. Seeing no objections, that motion is passed. Kathy Dunham, do you have any additions?
I just wanted to make sure that the tabled experimental format was back on the agenda for today.
Okay. Where is that on the agenda? Maybe Rachel, you can help me, or Kathy?
Well, it was part of the experimental formats report that Sharon gave yesterday. And my club's request was tabled until today because we were looking for some minimum numbers.
Rachel, do you want to do it on unfinished business?
That was would have been my suggestion. I'd also like to go over the other items that we added yesterday, if you feel it's necessary.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and add those to unfinished business?
Okay. We have a breeder assist item to talk about.
Yep.
We have the report from Pam Moser about the event that she attended. And I believe we've covered everything else.
Okay, the one for Pam Moser is going to be an executive session. We'll
Yes.
put that at the end. And the Breeders Assist, that's going to fall under other committees, or is that new business?
Rich, it was new business yesterday.
Thanks, Pam. Okay, George, do you have any additions?
No, but I didn't hear Rachel mention, we also put Hurricane Ian under new business as well.
Was that not the same as the breeder assist matter?
It is, I believe it's the same because Pam shaking her
Okay.
head yes.
Okay, great.
Kenny?
Yeah, two things. Russell is,
he joined, but he can't get his speaker to work. I told him to go off and come back just to give Aline a heads up.
Okay,
And
great.
I have a change in same show date for a club, but it's 54 miles away to a different location in October.
So let's put that under new business.
Please,
Okay,
thank you.
we'll do that after Pam's breeder's assistant hurricane.
Rachel, can you send that mentor report to me and I can display it on the screen?
I will. I'll send it to everyone right now.
Great, thank you.
Rather than go through all these additions, I'm just going to call them at one time. Are there any can somebody make a motion to accept all these additions?
I move we accept the additions.
Okay, and can I have a second?
I second. Paula.
Thank you, Paula. Any objections to the additions? Seeing no objections, the motion is passed. Motion to approve the orders of the day, please.
So moved.
Thanks, George. Second.
Any seconds?
Thank you, Kenny. Any objections to the orders of the day? Seeing no objections, the motion is passed. Great. We are going to go into show rules.
I thought Rachel was going to do the announcement.
That's right. Rachel's going to do her judge's announcements. Thank you.
See if I can get these correctly today. We would like to welcome, I'm not going to attempt their last name out of no disrespect, Chait from Thailand as a long hair trainee, Padma from Thailand as a long hair first specialty trainee, Lynn Knight as a second specialty short hair trainee. Would you like me to go through the list of associate judges we accepted at this time?
Please do.
Here again, I'm going to do last names and forgive me if I mispronounce any. Di Natale, Lati, Perillo Marcone, Altonen, Canupo, and Silva Sanchez from Region 9. From Hong Kong, we have Patrick Ah, Grace Chung, Alex Chunlap. We have Leung, Law, Chen, Lo, Ing, Tang, and Young. And also from, we have Eugene Zhang. I'd like to welcome those people on behalf of the judging program to our associate program as trainees.
Thank you, Rachel. Welcome, everybody. Pam Delabar.
Rachel, I did not have Eugene, who's from South Korea. Am I correct?
She was accepted.
Okay, I did not have that one, but she is from South Korea, correct?
I don't have that on my list. I think that's correct, but I'll verify.
She is.
She is.
Thank you. I need to revise my notes then, because I didn't have that one.
Rachel, anything else?
That's it. I'll get with you privately, Pam, to make sure we have all those correct. It was a task to get those out last night, but necessary.
Thank you, Rachel. We're going to go into show rules. Mary Kay, you are here, and I just want to remind the board, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. The standing motion was made on all the show rules by Carol Krasnowski, and the standing second is Rachel Anger. Do I have that correct? Okay, thank you. Mary Kay, we're going to turn it over to you. And are we on number 11?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So we have two show rules that were passed by 2/3 at the annual, and it is my understanding that you ratify these. So the first one is very, very simple. It just specifies that meals are to be provided in a certain time frame for the judges, and also that clubs cannot ask judges to share hotel rooms. They can volunteer, but they can't ask. The club can't ask.
Any discussion? Any objection? Seeing no objection, motion is passed unanimously.
Number 12, this is to, instead of having the 5% decrements for the finals, it would be 1 point for each cat defeated. There's just a couple things I want to make sure you note. This does not affect grand points. I keep getting asked by people, when are we going to get this for grand points, or is it going to affect grand points? I want to make sure it's on the record. This does not affect grand points. It also does not affect the brown and orange ribbon. The brown and orange ribbon will still be at the 5% decrements. That's it.
Thank you, Mary. Any discussion? Pam Delabar?
I'm sorry, I'm not getting the screen again. Eileen,
I don't have any control over that, Pam. Maybe because you dropped off yesterday and came back in. If you do want to try that again, and I'll look for you. That
And I'm
seemed to solve the problem.
We're still looking at 11.
I'm
No,
sorry. Just making notes. Sorry.
okay.
Actually, I think
I
we're on
mean,
12.
I'm trying to do the notes.
Oh, okay.
George?
Yeah, I just want to say that I have misgivings about this. I think it places more emphasis on count and less emphasis on placement at a time we're trying to discourage stuffing. But the people have spoken, and I'm going to vote to ratify.
Melanie?
At the risk of reiterating what George said, I have serious misgivings about this. But it passed by 2/3, and my understanding is that we have no choice in the matter. So I simply am very, very uncomfortable with this.
Mike?
I'm also very uncomfortable with this, and everybody pretty much from my region who has contacted me about this is uncomfortable with it. I'm curious if the feeling is that we have to vote yes on this, why we vote at all, but I'm going to abstain on this.
So, Shelley, do you want to go on record and explain the process as to why the board votes on these, and also if these are passed by 2/3 by the delegation, that the board accepts these?
I will. Just give me a minute, because I don't like to answer legal questions on the fly like this, but the rationale is in the bylaws. So let me go ahead and George can answer if he wants to answer, but I need to bring up the bylaw section.
All right, well, I'll give you some time. I'm going to call on Paula first, and I'll call on George. Go ahead, Paula.
Thank you. I have serious misgivings as well, and several members of exhibitors in my region have expressed their unhappiness with this. So I may have to abstain as well.
George?
Yeah, the reason is because the delegation has the power to pass a show rule by 2/3. But once something becomes a show rule, the board has the power to alter, amend, or change any show rule. Mostly what the board has used this power for in the past is when something passes by 2/3 from the delegation, but it needs some additional work or some housekeeping to implement it. For example, there was a change many years ago on spayed and neutered kittens being shown in CFA. And they had changed a bunch of show rules, but they didn't catch all the places. So the board had to do additional work to fully implement what the delegation had wanted. So this has to do with the concurrent jurisdiction between the board and the delegation in passing show rules. Yes, if they pass it by 2/3, it becomes a show rule, but the board can amend, alter, or revoke show rules. So we give it our blessing, and if necessary, we may do a little cleanup work on it. And that's really all it's about.
George, thank you. Annette?
Thank you. I don't like this at all. However, what I don't understand is why we would keep the division 95% there if we're getting rid of this. If this is gonna automatically pass and we're not gonna do anything about it, then I think the one thing we could do is have it make a little bit more sense. And this 95% thing applying, the decrement applying to best of breed and second best of breed and not to this, to me is just a little crazy.
Can I answer that?
Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, so the reason why I left it that way, and this is not the first time that this show rule was presented. This is like the third year in a row. So I've had a lot of comments from a lot of people about what we wanted from this. And many people have had an opportunity to talk to me about this, and they have. The reason why the orange ribbon is left at 95% is because of the math effect. When you have 20 or fewer cats, you get more points with the 5% decrement. When you have more than 20 cats in a final or in a class, you get more points from counting actual points. So also, as you know, our orange ribbon, if there are 2 cats in the class, the orange ribbon gets 0.95% or gets 95% of 1, which is 0.95%. Those rings add up. And people have told me they wanted to keep that because the first time I wrote this and asked for comment, I didn't have that. But people wanted the orange ribbon to remain this way because most of our classes are under 20 cats. So that's why it's that way.
Okay, Mary, thank you for the explanation. Annette?
Thank you. And I have a problem with cats getting a point without defeating a cat. So you know, what we've done is we've gone from the decrement system, which in my opinion, rewarded the cats in a manner that made some sense. And it made sense for a really long time. And what we've gone to is a fight for points that ignores competition and the incremental reward for competition by now giving away a point for a cat that gets an orange ribbon when it didn't defeat another cat. So I would like the board to consider changing that. Thank you.
Hey, Shelley?
Okay, Article 13 of the bylaws allows the delegates to change the show rules at the annual meeting, which they did. So I think that the issue that maybe, and Michael Shelton, if I'm wrong, you can let me know, but I think that the issue is that perhaps the wording is wrong. The board doesn't have to ratify this. The bylaws gave the delegates the right to make this show rule. It is now a show rule and it will start at the date that it is supposed to start. There's no ratification necessary. However, the board is also under Article 13 from time to time can establish show rules, and the board can change show rules. The board can do anything the board wants to show rules. And so really what you should have is if you do not agree with a show rule that was passed by the delegates, then you need to have a pre-noticed motion to a board meeting to change the show rule. That's the relationship that you have between the board and the delegates. And I hope that answers your question. If there are changes to this or a desire to strike it, it's going to have to be by 2/3 of the board because I don't see that it was pre-noticed. Any change to not accept what the delegates put forward would have to be a pre-noticed motion to have a 50% +1 vote, or it would need 2/3 vote today to not agree and or make any changes to what is here.
Mark?
It would seem to me that based on what Shelley just told us, that we should ratify this today and we can pre-notice a motion for the December board meeting to rescind it, go back to the 5%.
Mary?
I want to be last. So
Okay, take your hand down.
Oh, okay.
Pam Mosier,
Okay, so again, what Shelley said, so this show rule doesn't take effect until next year anyway, correct?
correct,
Okay, so we can do something in February. Yeah, okay, thanks.
or December.
I meant December, sorry.
Pam Delabar,
What, okay, I'm on, what Mark said is the cleanest way to do it. And I totally agree. So we should go ahead, ratify, and then bring it back up in December to do any changes or to delete and revert back to the original show rule.
Annette, are you okay if you want to make changes to this? We bring it back in December?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Mary Kay, final comments?
I just want to say this passed by 2/3. Every year that I presented it, it was popular. I believe that it passed the year that we had the Zoom annual, but because of technical problems, it got ruled out, not passed, but it did pass by 2/3. And there are a lot of people that believe that this is the way to go. I wanted to address Annette's point about being uncomfortable with getting a fraction of a point without defeating a cat. I've always been uncomfortable with that. That's always been something that bothered me, but it's the third rail of show rules. I don't want to touch it without, knowing that people are going to support that, because there are a lot of people who get points that way. There was a year that I ran a cat that I got 50 points, almost 50 points, because I had 50 rings that were 0.95%. So, and I would be happy to write that show rule for you, but I think that needs to go to the clubs. So, because there are people who get those points and use them for regional wins or breed wins, and I don't want to touch that. But if you want to touch that, I'll write the show rule for you. And I just want to wrap it up and say, we always fear change. Everybody's always afraid of change. I think that we should try this. A lot of people want this. If we don't like it, after a season, we can change it.
Mary, you all set?
Yep.
Annette, did you want to say anything? No? Okay, is there any further discussion? I'm going to call on ratifying this. All those in favor of ratifying, raise your hand. George Egenhauser, Pam Delabar, Carol Krasnowski, Kathy Dunham, Kenny Curley, Yukiko Hayata, Rachel Anger, Russell Webb, Sharon Roy. Lower your hands, please. All those opposed? Please raise your hand. I see no one opposed. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. Mark Hannon, Melanie Morgan, Annette Wilson, Pam Mosier, Paula Noble, Mike Shelton, John Colilla. You can lower your hands. Rachel, please call the vote.
9 yes votes, 0 no votes, 7 abstentions.
Okay. Motion is ratified. Mary?
Okay, number 13. So now we are into the show rule, and I think we only have one here. The show rule change that passed with a favorable recommendation. So it passed with 50%, but not 2/3. So this show rule, I was fascinated yesterday by your discussion of the OCP experimental format, because when I first thought of the OCP format, I thought that there would be an extra judge to do this, because the point was to have the champions and premiers judged without being in the same class as the grands. But somehow that's turned into, we're just extending the champion and premier spots. Well, that's basically what this show rule does. And you were talking about a threshold yesterday to be able to do that. What this show rule does is, once a show reaches top 15 status for a class, And for championship, that is 85, and for premiership, it's 50. Once the class reaches top 15 status, they will have 2 extra champion spots or 1 extra premiership spot. So it will be top 5 in championship if they have 85 or more cats entered. It would be top 3 in premiership if they have 50 or more entered. Now, I included some data for you, and I'm not going to read the data, but I just wanted to show you of our shows last year that reached top 15 status. We had a total of 206 shows in all of CFA last season. So remember that number, 206 shows. We had 37 shows reach top 15 status in championship. We had 9 shows reach top 15 status in premiership. So those are the shows that would be affected. And what I did was I took the show with the highest count and the lowest count and the average that would be affected to show you what the values would be if we extended the champion wins for those spots, so that you can see if you pass this and there's a show that gets a top 15 status and there's 44 champions present, 5th best champion is going to get 26 points while defeating 39 cats. So they're still defeating a very large number of cats. In premiership, the benefit of that 3rd spot, because of the math effect, if the class is smaller, it's just, they're getting a point for every cat defeated, basically. So that's all I wanted to say about this. This is just an extension of those spots, very similar to what you're trying to do with the OCP rings. That's it.
Thank you, Mary. Pam Delabarne.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I have to sign out to try to get the screen back in. So please let me know what happens with this.
Okay. Mark?
I just want to compliment Mary on coming up with the statistics. She obviously went to a lot of extra work to do this for us, and it's very helpful.
I agree. Annette?
Thank you. I don't remember if my clubs voted in favor of this or not, but I certainly can see the point to doing this if we're going to keep the champion decrements. So my question to Mary would be, is that something that's being contemplated to present to the delegates next year?
Okay, I will answer that question. I have no intention of presenting that next season, because I believe if we change the 90% decrements on the champions and premiers, we would have to look at raising the 200 limit. And I don't think, I think that's another third rail. I don't want to touch that. People have this mental fixation on 200. If we tell them, oh, we're going to give you more points per show, we're going to raise it to 300, but give you more points per show, they're going to freak out. They won't understand. People fear change too much. So no, Annette, I am not going to do that. Also, we accumulate points from season to season with champions. It's not like the national regional, which it ends on the season boundary. So if you need another 10 points, you just go to another show. It's not the same kind of scoring. So no, Annette, I personally do not have any intention of changing that decrement system until we figure out how I can talk everybody into raising the champion points.
Thank you.
Melanie?
I want to start by echoing Mark. I really, really appreciate the numbers here, and Mary makes it a lot easier for us to take a look at things on this. However, and I wonder, Mary, I don't know if you had access to them. I know I spoke to Dick Calameyer about the percentage of total cats that are granding based off the cats that are actually showing right now. And we're pretty much close to an all-time high, I think, in terms of percentage of cats out there showing versus grands being accomplished. And yet we continue to come up with ways to give more points, especially in the premiership class. By the show rule that we made last year, where we get those phantom points from those orange ribbons or defeating grands, you can get, a significant number of points towards that 75, 10, 12, et cetera, in a weekend or even one day show by simply being second best of breed in a class of 2. And here we go, you know, basically going down to 3rd, 4th, 5th, well, 4th and 5th best cats, 3rd for premiership, in classes where we're looking at counts of 82. I mean, I'm not a big one for going and talking about the old days, because I agree with you. We need to embrace some change, but not change for the sake of change. And I do remember the days when, you know, a best all breed champion got you 115 points. So that's not happening anymore, but that doesn't mean that we're not granding cats. We really are. We're granding cats at an all-time high rate, as far as I remember from the data that I looked at.
Rachel?
Thank you. I want to speak in favor of this proposal, and I'm definitely going to support it. To me, we're doing this for the sake of inclusion. People that are, if we adopt this, the people that achieve these wins are defeating cats. They've attended the show. They've done everything necessary in order to grand their cats. We're just allowing more opportunity for them to do that. If their cat is not worthy of the title of CFA Grand Champion, I don't think they would achieve it, no matter how many spots we make available for them. So in order to honor what these people are doing and the quality of the cats, I'm going to support this proposal. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mary Kay, great job on this. Do you have any last comments?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, if you all want me to write a show rule that removes points unless where it's such that you don't get a point unless you actually defeat another cat, so that there's no more 0.95 points, I'll write that show rule. But when I present it at the annual, you guys all better speak about it, because I'm not one that's in favor of it. I'll write the show rule for you and present it, but you guys are going to have to speak for it.
Okay, thank you for the warning. All right, I'm going to call for the vote on this. If you're in favor, raise your hand. George Eigenhauser, Mark Hannon, Mike Shelton, Kenny Curley, Pam Delabar, Carol Kusnowski, Kathy Dunham, Sharon Roy, Rachel Anger, Annette Wilson, Paula Noble, Yukika Hayata. Please lower your hand. If you are opposed, please raise your hand. Melanie Morgan, Pam Mosier. If you abstain, please raise your hand. No abstentions. Rachel, please call the vote.
I did not get a vote from John Kalila.
I think he's frozen.
Okay.
I don't see John on the screen. Oh, I do see him over there.
But the image is frozen. I think he's having
Yeah.
technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Oh, and I do not have a vote from Russell Webb.
Russell, we can't hear you. You're not on mute. Okay, you're in favor? He gave us a thumbs up, Rachel.
Perfect. That's 13 yes.
I have a message from John with a vote. I don't know if that works or not.
Sure, what is it?
He's a vote no. His screen is stuck.
Okay,
13 yes, 3 no, 0 abstentions.
okay, this motion has passed. Melanie, can you check with John? Can he hear what's going on, and will he participate through you?
Asking now, and he's trying to get back in.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, you're doing
He can
that.
hear. He can hear.
Okay, good. All right, Mary Kay, we're going on to number 14, right?
Yes. All right. So
Okay.
we are now in the section of non-show rule resolutions that passed from the annual. So these are not show rule resolutions. You can do anything you want with them. The first one is to compensate clubs that offer reduced entry fees for miscellaneous, provisional, and AOV entries. When this first came up in discussions with people on Facebook, there were people who wanted to require clubs to offer a discounted entry. And I thought, why? That's not going to fly. A lot of people were unhappy with that. So this was a compromise, basically, that the board will offer some compensation to clubs that offer discounted entries. So it's just a suggestion, just an idea that maybe there could be a program where you give clubs $20 if they offer a discounted entry. Now, I wanted to give you some numbers on what that looks like. We had, out of our 206 shows last season, 41 of them had entries in the miscellaneous, provisional, and AOV classes. When you accept a new breed, we expect people to show these cats, and yet clubs are charging them full price. Some of the entry fees are exorbitant right now. So we had 41 shows that, out of all those 206, we only had 41 shows that had these entries. There were a total of 115 miscellaneous and provisional or AOV entries out of something like over 10,000 entries. That's all we had last season from those classes. So this is just a suggestion that maybe these people need some manner of compensation. That's it.
Mike?
I would just like to speak in favor of this as somebody who has shown multiple breeds in the miscellaneous class. We expect these people to come out and show their cats repeatedly and show multiple cats when they're not getting anything except judges' feedback. And I don't want to minimize the importance of the judges' feedback, but they have no opportunity for any kind of wins or awards. They're just out there trying to promote their breed. And I think we need to give them every little piece of help we can.
George?
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat what Mike said, but I agree. I support this resolution. I want to add to something Mary said. This is a non-show rule resolution. So the fact that it passed by 2/3 is informational, but does not have any bylaws effect. This isn't like a show rule where 2/3 means it automatically passes. 2/3 is simply informational. And the other thing I want to do is address the resolution that follows, which is the effective date for this. I don't like resolution number 15. As soon as central office can implement isn't a date. So what I would prefer is if this passes, when we decide on an effective date, we simply ask Eileen for a date and we actually give an actual date when we get to resolution 15. And I do hope this passes and I support it.
Eileen?
What I would suggest is that we come back, the central office comes back in December with a proposal of how exactly this will work. For instance, what is the discount? We will have to check the flyer, see what was being offered. And then I'm assuming that if the discount's only $10 from the full entry fee, that we would rebate $10. So I want to flesh some of that out, present it to the board at the December board meeting. And if everybody agrees with it, then we could certainly start to implement it beginning of the year, January 1st.
Melanie?
Yeah, Elaine actually answered my only concerns about this. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's going to be easy, but it sounds like they can indeed address this. And I want to again thank Mary Kay for providing us with a solid background behind this and numbers to back it up, et cetera. I think that this proposal addresses a very real problem that we have and takes things past lip service in terms of our support of our new breeds. And I even though we don't have our treasurer here to say, oh, shake our head, I'm actually very much in support of this.
Annette?
Thank you. I support this idea. And Ellen, could you pull down what the actual rule is so I can see it? I had it on my phone, but I can't read it on my phone. So up to $20 per entry. I have a couple of concerns about it. And I'm just gonna come out and say them. One, I think it should be up to the club to apply for this, and that could be part of what Eileen puts together for the December meeting. The club should ask for the rebate. And in their asking, they should be required to show that the rules for entry were followed. We are seeing about a 20 to 25%, I'm going to call it an error ratio in some of the miscellaneous entries, not so much in the provisional entries, where invalid or non-existent registration numbers are used. And the show rules require that a cat that's entered in the miscellaneous class or the provisional class or the AOV class have a CFA registration number. Now, you know, maybe to get the cat entered, or maybe entry clerks are ignoring that rule. It's going to add more burden to central office, but if we could put some of that burden on the club to show that in fact, you know, a slip was provided, or whatever the reason is. But even to the point where when we check, we get a weekly report of miscellaneous and provisional cats entered in the Region Standards Committee, and we look up each of those registration numbers, and often it's an incorrect or non-existent number, more often than I'm comfortable with. So I think it should be up to the clubs to make sure that part of the show rules is being followed. And therefore, I think it should be up to the club to request this compensation and back it up with the facts. That's all. Otherwise, I'm supporting it, absolutely.
And Mosier?
Okay, I'm a little bit confused here. I know that in our region, most of our clubs already are only asking on the provisional and miscellaneous and all that is $20 per entry. That's what we put it as. So are you saying that then we can ask for it, that $25, that $20 back? Is it Mary Kay's shaking her head? Yes. Okay, well, I myself, if you're already offering at $20, I don't think that there's a reason to ask for the $20 back. But that's just me. And I know my club offers the $20 for provisional. I would not ask for that back.
Pam, you all set?
Yes.
Okay, Carol?
Yes, I agree with Pam Mosier. A lot of clubs do offer reduced rates for provisional and miscellaneous, but I would like to suggest that this particular rule be tabled until December so that central office can work on some statistics and some ideas, and perhaps involve Annette Wilson as chair of Region Standards so that we can have something a little more tangible to vote on.
Rachel, you in agreement to table it? Okay, let's table it then.
Can I just say something?
Yes, thank you.
I wanted to answer a few points. I don't have a problem with tabling it because I really like what Annette said, that the club should have to ask for the rebate and that they should have to show that they actually had these entries. Because when I got the entry dump from James, of all the entries that were in the shows, there were a lot of mistakes. So the entry clerk program, especially in the entries in China, but whatever, I was able to figure out what class they were, but sometimes the class is wrong. So yes, I agree that they should have to show that, hey, we had X provisional entries or whatever, and get a rebate for that. And I like central office coming back in December with a program, a process for how to do that. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Kathy Dunham?
I just wanted to address something that while I have no problem with tabling this and I am in favor of the program, as an entry clerk, I would just like to address something that Annette said. When I get an entry from an exhibitor that's showing a miscellaneous or provisional cat, I have no way of knowing at this point in time that it is a legitimate registration number. And unless you are going to mandate entry clerks to call central office and verify numbers, we don't know that. So asking a club to verify the information, I think, is asking a lot. Now, asking us to request the refund, perfectly acceptable. But we are getting back into an issue that I've always had a problem with, and that's the TRN numbers. It's not my job to know the rules of registration. It's the exhibitor's job to know that. And I just have a real problem with an expectation that you're putting more pressure on an entry clerk that's already working on deadlines to assume the responsibility to verify all of this information. So I just want that out there, that's a lot to ask when you're trying to put entries in the last 48 hours of a show, because that's when everybody enters. Thanks.
This is an interesting discussion. The motion's been tabled. And though I'd like to continue with the discussion, and in order to stay on our time here, I think Kathy Dunham, Mary Kay, Annette, and Aline all work together. And maybe you can summarize your concerns and resolutions at the December meeting so we can move forward. So sorry, I don't usually like doing that, but we're already behind the schedule. We still have some more things to do. And I can just see this going in a very strange direction. So for those of you who had your hands up, we'll save them for later. Mary Kay, does number 15 now also mean it's tabled?
I believe number 15 should be tabled, but who tables it? I think that would be Rachel.
No, it'd be Carol.
Carol.
Rachel's got to agree.
I will table it as well.
Rachel, do you agree?
I agree to tabling number 15.
Okay, so we're going to bring back 14 and 15 for December, and everybody's going to work together on that. Those two. Thank you. Mary Kay, number 16.
Number 16 is about compensation for clubs to hire overseas judges. Right now, I believe that there is a benefit for clubs in Europe that hire judges from the US that CFA is giving them a certain amount of money. Now, I was told it was $750. Pam might think that it's something else, and whatever. This would be a raise. If it was less than $750, this would be a raise for the clubs in Europe. So whatever the compensation is, we would like that compensation to also be given to US clubs that hire judges from Europe or Japan, to clubs from Japan that hire judges from overseas, to clubs from China, and everywhere. Everybody would get the same benefit. If you hire a judge from overseas, the board gives you some manner chunk of money. $750 is just a suggestion. You can, of course, change that. I seriously, our lineups are getting so homogenous. They are, it's the same, always the same. And if you go to one show and 6 out of the 8 judges don't like your cat, and 2 weeks later, you're going to see the same 6 judges, why would you enter? So we need to give the clubs a way to shake up their lineups. And this is a very small way. Just giving the club a little bit of money doesn't mean that we're going to have a run on clubs hiring judges from overseas, because you still have to pay a great deal for airfare. You still have to pay more for hotel nights. It's just a small amount of compensation to give them some encouragement to hire these judges. That's it.
Pam Delabar.
The amount that Region 9 gets is up to 2 judges per show, $700 each, to defray the cost of airfares for CFA judges outside of Region 9. And that can be Australia, Thailand, US, Japan, and China. But for us to have the associate program, if you remember correctly, at the last board meeting, the board meeting where we accepted T3 for Region 9, we had to basically agree that once we were able to expand our judging cadre, then we would give up that extra money because the everybody else did not have it, so it would put us on the same par with everyone else. Now, if that changes, I will be coming back and saying I want that provision removed. I'm sure that Kathy remembers, because that was her idea to remove that stipend or sponsorship if we were to have associate judges in Europe. So I, of course, have to abstain because I'm one of those judges outside the US. But I did want to make some clarifications here on how this is used. And we needed it because we don't have enough judges. And we have a market for lots of shows. So, of course, we use our tier 1 guest judges quite frequently. But this gives you an idea on how we have to operate to be able to get judges to staff our shows here in Europe. As an aside, we do have, I think, at least 2 coming in a couple of weeks from the US to maybe 3 right off the top of my head to be able to judge our 4-ring show in Finland.
Before I call on Mike, Pam is correct. There was the addition when Pam requested the T3 associate judges for her region. That addition to giving up the sponsorship for the judges outside the area, I believe, will expire 2024. I think that's what we pushed it to. And Kathy, Pam, and myself had a discussion if we need to relook at that date pending how the situation is in Europe or in her region for judges, that date could be extended. In addition to what Pam stated, Pam's region also has a limit, a dollar amount limit on the sponsorship per year. As she stated, it's 2 shows, 2 judges per show, twice a year, up to $700 each. Pam, I don't remember what the maximum amount was, but that was set in the budget. Maybe 14,000, or I can't remember the number. We can look back at that.
Yeah.
Mike?
I just want to again make a request that our definition of overseas areas would include judges going from the mainland US or Japan to Hawaii. Hawaii has nothing but overseas judges. They're trying to make a budget work on shows where they typically get maybe 40 entries. 40 is a good show for them. And in the past, they have been able to get by on the extreme generosity of a lot of judges who have basically not charged them airfare or have used miles. I don't think it's realistic to ask judges to do that. And with increasing costs, it's harder and harder for judges to do that too. So I would just like to make a request that the definition of overseas areas includes Hawaii.
Melanie?
Thank you. Kathy's not here, so I'm going to channel her for a moment. We're looking at pretty massive decreases to our registrations and our income. We continue to make decisions that cost money, and we need to do that in order to be able to continue to survive and prosper. I don't think in theory that this is a bad idea at all. However, the reason that this was designed for Europe was that we wanted to continue with the CFA brand over there, and we wanted to encourage the clubs who are isolated and don't have a large pool of judges to pull from to pull from our CFA judging pool. Yes, we're getting homogenous judging slates here in the US. That's certainly true. That said, we have a huge number of judges that clubs can choose from that are within the regions 1 through 7. So while they may choose not to take advantage of it, they have that option. Whereas the people who are somewhat isolated and in that little vacuum over there in Europe don't have that choice. Given our current financial situation, which is not dire by any means, but I think we need to be fiscally responsible, and the availability of options here in the US, I can't support this at this time.
George?
I support the concept of providing some compensation for the clubs, but I think this needs additional work. The first thing we need to decide is how this integrates with our existing program for providing, some compensation for Region 9. Also, I always have trouble when we use the word overseas. I want to remind people that Europe and Asia are connected. You don't have to cross overseas to drive from Paris to Vietnam. So I think we need to think a little bit more about what we're trying to do with this, how we're going to define our terms, and how we're going to implement it before we actually do it.
Yeah, Mosier?
Yes, thanks. Although I agree with what has basically been said, sometimes I think we are our worst enemies. When we approve these things, we need to realize what could happen down the road, and this is called fairness. So these clubs over here now have seen what's happening with clubs that have been getting some compensation for bringing in other judges. So the clubs over here now are asking for the same. So I think this is all about fairness. I don't know if I would support it which way, but just remember that they're trying to make it, we got to make it fair for everybody. Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, in 2 weeks, that's my point, down in Florida has got a show scheduled and they're bringing over Michael Schleisner. And I compliment them on doing that. They're doing that to have some variety in their slate, but it also shows how unusual it is for a club in regions 1 through 7 to bring over a judge from quote unquote overseas. We're seeing the same slates over and over and again, as people have pointed out here in the United States. And part of that is because of the cost of transporting judges, even within the United States. And so I think that bringing in judges from overseas because we're giving them some compensation for that is unfair to our American judges. If their show is in Florida, the chances are pretty slim that they're going to invite somebody from Nevada or Arizona to judge their shows because of the expense of flying in. It might be cheaper to fly in a judge, if this passes, from Europe or Asia. I don't think it's fair to our American judges to set up this situation when our clubs can't afford to bring in American judges from outside their immediate area.
Pam Delbar?
Now, I got into the silver slip of the lip club by using a phrase that is used in Australia when they bring in judges from the US or CFA judges from the US are from outside of Australia or New Zealand. And that is that clubs get together and work. So if I'm judging in Brisbane one weekend, I could be judging in Melbourne the next weekend, and yet maybe in Perth the following weekend. We get the clubs to work together to split the expenses. And by the by, I'm judging in the US in January. And my ticket's not all that expensive comparative to what has been charged. You've got to remember, between Europe and the US, fares tend to go down after the 30th of September. So just this past Friday was sort of the cutoff. Then we're starting to see reductions in fares. But we could use some smarts. We do the same thing here in Europe when bringing like one of the judges over from Hong Kong. We use them for more than one weekend and split the costs between the clubs. There are ways to do this without looking back to CFA and saying, you know, we need all this more money. It can work, but it's tough right now because of the economy. And, you know, yes, we are looking at inflation worldwide, but anyway, there are smart ways to get this done. And I wish everybody could have extra money for bringing in CFA judges, you know, from all over. But right now, I'm seeing a bit of a money crunch that we're looking at. Of course, the thing is if we can spend $15,000 on a clicker program, perhaps we can help the clubs, you know, bring in more judges, and even those judges from within the U.S. That have unbelievable airfares.
George?
I really feel strongly that this is not ready for a vote today. So if the makers of the motion will not table it, I would like to make a motion that we table this till December.
Can I say something about that?
Go ahead, Mary Kay.
I would be happy to table it and come back and have a better definition of overseas, because to me, when I wrote the word overseas, yeah, I meant Hawaii. Hawaii is obviously overseas. So if that's not obvious, I'm more than willing to table this and come back with something better defined.
One thing I would like to just to finish this off, when you come back, the board is not going to offer compensation. The board may have CFA give compensation, but we're not paying for this. CFA is.
Okay.
Colleen?
I just wanted to mention that since this is tabled until December, that there should also be a cap. There should be a budget. So this reimbursement process will be up to 15,000 overall. When that 15,000 is depleted, I mean, is it just an unending amount? I mean, I think I'm talking for Kathy Calhoun at this point.
I like that. I can work with her on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mary Kay, as this is written, based on the number you provided to us in an earlier show rule, I think you said there was 206 shows last year.
Yes.
If every club took advantage of this, it would exceed 300,000 as this is written. So as George said, this needs work.
Okay.
Kathy's not here to defend CFA financially, though I am here, and there are others on the board that will. This needs a lot of work that needs to be done. Okay.
I absolutely like the idea of a cap, and once it's depleted, that's it. That's very good. I want to point out that airfare is only one component. When we bring a judge in, and as I've found out, because my club is bringing in a judge from Germany, we have to put up that judge for 3 nights, not 2. So whereas some of the judges we hire in the US, sometimes we can get away with just 1 hotel night. But for a judge from Europe, we have to bring them in. They get the hotel night for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, even for a 1-day show. So it's still very expensive to bring a judge in from another country versus the United States. But I like the idea of a cap, and we'll work on that for December.
Okay. Carol and Rachel, Mary has agreed to table it. George is recommending table. Are you both in agreement?
Rachel is.
Yes, Carol is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mary Kay.
So that means 17 is tabled as well. Do they have to agree to table that?
Yeah, let's just do it for the record.
Okay.
Carol, Rachel, you agree?
I
Yes,
agree to table 17.
Thank
Carol
you.
does too. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
number 18. This is a resolution from the floor. We are now into resolutions from the floor, and these passed. And this particular one passed overwhelmingly by 2/3. This is just a simple change. in the regions instead of what 1st through 10th best household pet. This would be add 5 spots. So it increases the household pet regional awards to 15.
Yeah, Mosier?
Questions, is this, does the region have to offer the 15?
So this is to change the title. This will change the title of what CFA gives to household pets. So the HRW will be extended to 15. There's no show rule that says regions have to pass out trophies. So I don't
Okay.
know. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. That's just a clarification.
Okay.
George?
And I just want to say I strongly support this resolution. You know, if we want to get household pet people engaged, if we want to make them a part of CFA, we have to offer them awards. This passed overwhelmingly at the annual. I'm going to repeat that even though it passed by 2/3, that's not really of legal significance, but it is at least of persuasive influence that there is a strong support for this out in the fancy. And I would really like to see us adopt this.
Any more discussion? Any objections on this one? Seeing no objections, this one passed unanimously.
So the next show rule was requested by George Eigenhauser to make that effective with this current season.
Okay. Any George?
Yeah, you know, we're very, very early in the show season right now. This isn't going to significantly change how people exhibit over the course of the year. I normally oppose making changes during the show season once it's already started. But in this instance, I think it would be appropriate. And I would ask you all to vote yes.
Any additional discussion? Any objections? I'm going to call the vote. There is an objection. Oh, Rachel, do you have a discussion?
Yes, it was a question, not an
Okay.
objection.
Go ahead.
I just want to be sure that central office can accommodate this if we pass it without much fuss.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yep, not a problem.
Great, thank you.
Okay, are there any objections? Seeing no objections, this passes unanimously.
Okay, number 20. A lot of clubs are screaming for this because shipping our show packages next day to Alliance, Ohio is getting to be exorbitantly expensive. Some of them are paying over $100 each to ship it. And we would just like central office to create a process where we could scan in the show package.
Okay, Aline, you want to talk on this?
Yeah, that was covered in my central office report. We do have guidelines that we will start sending out to all clubs as the shows are licensed. But in addition to that, we will send out a notice to already licensed shows of how what they need to do to scan the show package to us.
So do we want to say we can, I'm sorry, withdraw this? Or do you want to vote on it?
Let me see what Carol has to say. Carol?
Yes, I just wanted to say that since central office is already addressing this, there's really no need for a motion on this one. I would withdraw it.
Okay. Now the next one is a little bit different. So assuming that,
Hang on, Mary Kay.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So central office is offering this. That doesn't mean central office is going to make it a policy. They're offering it. Now, maybe what we do is let central office offer it now, work out the bugs. And if we can eventually make it a policy, then we can incorporate it as an option to be used. Aline, if clubs choose not to do this, then they're required to follow the existing show rule, correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so there's going to be some work on this pending what central office does through the process. So do we want to withdraw it? Or do we want to table it pending central office tests? Carol?
Ellen, can you scroll back to 20? Let's see exactly what the wording was for this thing. Okay. Well, it says that central office will create an optional electronic submission process. It doesn't say that it's mandatory or anything. It just gives clubs another option, which is what central office is currently working on. So I think it's okay to withdraw it. If someone else feels differently, please feel free.
John?
On mailing the package, I've been mailing for clubs where shows that I judge, and I notice a difference in pricing. If you go through the regular post office, it's a lot cheaper than FedEx. Just a thought.
Thank you for that. Okay, is everybody in agreement that Carol and Rachel, you in agreement to withdraw it?
I am, this is Carol.
Rachel?
In agreement.
Okay, it's withdrawn. Go ahead, Mary Kay.
Okay, so number 21 is where this would actually be applied. Once the process is created. We had a problem this past season where the shows on the last weekend didn't get their packages in time and people were like kind of screaming for results. This would, number 20 says that all shows on the last season have to submit by this electronic process. This might be the one that you want to table until central office has the chance to work out the bugs.
Colleen?
I'd like to make a couple of comments. One is, it was one show that we had trouble with getting the results from this past show season. It was only one show. I think if we consider what I outlined before, that this process to do the scanning, there needs to be a test. We have to make sure everything looks okay. It's going to require certain equipment or a lot of time on the club's part. I'm not sure that we want to mandate that they have to send their shows in electronically. If there were, I don't know, let's say there were 9 shows and 8 shows were perfectly fine. Why should we penalize other clubs if they don't want to do the scanning? I think we could certainly ask for a tracking number from clubs, and we should require that they provide us with a tracking number. I'm not sure that we want to mandate that they have to do electronic scoring. I'm not electronic scoring, electronic scanning.
George?
In previous years, we've had scoring issues because of clubs not getting in their show packets during the last month of the show season, not just on the last weekend. I'm in agreement with Lean. It's a little premature for us to start making it mandatory, but once the system is in place for submitting their show packets electronically, I think we should strongly encourage clubs who have shows anywhere toward the end of the show season to take advantage of the system if they can.
So I'm willing to withdraw this. And, and maybe, see how everything shakes out first.
All right, hang on, Mary. Let's hear from Mark and Pam Delabar first. Mark?
Yeah, my recollection is not the same as Eileen's. I believe there were 3 shows that were beyond the following Tuesday or Wednesday. Some of them got them in by the end of the week, and there was one that was held up in customs, as I recall, from, I think it was Asia. And it's more than just one that's late. And I share the concerns of our exhibitors who want that information quickly at the end of the season. Having campaigned numerous cats myself, I think it should be required.
Pam Delabar?
We really need to look at using technology to get real electronic transmission of our show results in May. No, is it May? In this summer, I judged guest judged a show that was paperless. Any verbiage I used, I'm writing a traditional report. There were canned phrases, or I could type in what I wanted. Any awards that were made were entered into a tablet. This was sent to the central, what they called a show secretary, which would be like our master clerk, which was then the results were sent to the exhibitors. So they had their reports that they usually get and to their central office. It was absolutely flawless. There were no problems in doing this. Now, there were 100 and some odd entries. It was it was a real exercise first to learn how to use this system, especially for someone else's registry and association. But it worked beautifully. And if these people can come up with these systems with our brain power, we should be able to have the same thing. We need to get there. We're too global not to be there.
Pam, thank you. I agree with you, and I believe the system optimization team is working on that. It's I don't know where it is on the list, but it is in the to-do list. Aline, I'm going to hold off on calling on you last.
That's fine.
Paula?
Yes, many of you know how passionate I am about this particular issue. I spoke at this towards this and suggested that everybody that wants to do this test with central office first to make sure that what they can send is clear, concise, and Shirley would not have any problem with what they sent in scoring. Knowing in advance that I have already tried this once before and was successful, I still did that same test with central office in July when I sent the first of the 2 shows that I've submitted electronically, and have gotten reports back that everything was perfect. The second show that I did, they actually had everything they needed to score on Monday following the show. So not only can you get it there, you can get it there faster. You can get it there cheaper. It saves the clubs a lot of money. And I'd be willing to work with anybody who wants to try to get this expedited and moved forward in a clear, concise, reliable manner.
Paula, thank you for that, and thank you for testing those 2 shows. Aline, I also have a question. Towards the end of last year, I recall regional directors, maybe it was John from Region 4, who made a comment that he was getting multiple updates on the end of year scoring. And I thought it had something to do with the last 2 weekends of the year as the show packages were coming in. Maybe I have that wrong, but I remember the updates were, John, I thought you said you got 3 or 4 updates and you had to change things, but go ahead, Aline.
I can address that. There were, if I recall, 2 regions whose regional award banquets were they were the earliest. That was Kathy Dunham's region and John's. In our effort to rush the season end scoring, which is a very elaborate, involved process, we did not do our double checking that we normally do, double and triple checking to ensure the accuracy of the information that we're sending out, because we were being asked on a practically daily basis, please get me my information, please get me. So we sent out the results to Kathy Dunham and John Kalila. Within a day or 2 after we sent that out, we realized that there was a problem with the information because we hadn't done our double checking and triple checking, we saw it after the fact, and we sent the information to John and Kathy and explained what the problem was, what had happened, and here is the new information. It really didn't have anything to do with the last 2 weekends of shows. I don't recall that we sent it out 3 and 4 times. We simply sent the information. We replaced the original information, and it
Okay.
all happened very quickly.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the cause was. I didn't know if it had to do with the delay on the show packages. John Kalila?
Yeah, I get updates on top of updates. And one of the biggest problem is the owners. We have same owner 2 or 3 times listed. And it's not, I just don't understand, like there's a cat, the MF show. Her name is owner MF.
Okay.
Okay, John. My apologies. I went off topic on that, but I just need to clarify that didn't have anything to do with what's being requested here.
Okay, I'm sorry I was on mute.
No,
one of the biggest problem is the owner's names.
we got
Like-
that, John. John, we got that.
Okay, thank you.
We're all set. Thank you.
And we are addressing that issue. And with the new system upgrade, that's something that will be resolved.
Okay, great. James, do you have anything to add specific to the late show package filings?
Not so much with the late show packages, kind of adjusting with John, is anytime we're put under pressure to, put out results that aren't really ready, that's when mistakes happen. And that's kind of what happened here is, we didn't have our double, triple checks in place that we normally would do to make sure that data. And I was, I'd have to go back and look at the emails, but when I send that stuff to John, I said, these are preliminary to be used as a guide. These aren't the final results because, there's more additional checks that are put into place when we send out those final results.
Okay.
So, that.
Understand. You're on mute now.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I won't expand any more on that. And as far as the shows coming in versus Tuesday versus Thursday, that doesn't necessarily mean they get scored any faster because Shirley can only score 1 show at a time. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Aline, do you want to wrap this up?
I wanted to say something. Sorry.
All right, we'll let Aline, because she still has her hand up, then I'll let you wrap it up.
I was just simply going to address what Pam Delbar had mentioned, and it is something that we are looking at, the electronic submission of the data directly from the judges. It's a very complicated process. It's a matter of all judges agreeing to do it, having tablets that everybody can use. So it is something we're looking at. I realize it's being done in other places. I don't know what their situation is. I don't know if they're dealing with the same situation we are, where it's 200 and 300 shows and we're dealing with a variety of judges. So it is something we're looking at. It would be wonderful to do it, but it has challenges. So that's it.
Okay, Mary Kay.
So I just wanted to comment on why those end of season results are so important. It's not necessarily the cats at the top. A lot of people want to celebrate. They want to post on Facebook, my cat finished, second best, whatever, or whatever. And they don't want to celebrate until they see something from CFA about the final e-points or something. So it's not just the big campaigners. A lot of people are looking for small, I don't want to say little, they're looking for lower results. And it's really important that we know as soon as possible that we can celebrate like that. I like the idea of club sending central office a tracking number. This could be not mandatory, but if they do send this show package the next day, then they wouldn't have to e-submit. But this needs to be there to encourage the clubs on that last weekend to go through this. But I'm willing to withdraw it for now or table it or whatever.
Carol and Rachel, do you agree?
Yes, I think withdraw it at this point.
Okay.
Rachel agrees also.
All right, Mary Kay.
Okay, I believe that's it.
Great job, Mary Kay. Thank you. I know you have some work to do for the December meeting. Wonderful job. Carol?
Yes, before we leave show rules, I just want to circle back to item number 12, which we discussed at length, and that was about the decrement being changed to 1 point for each cat defeated as opposed to 5%. And then the discussion regarding breed division. We did not make a motion at that time to have it brought back in December to be looked at again or with some other options presented. So I wanted to find out how the board feels about addressing it again in December with some different ideas.
Rachel, what do you have for number 12 as far as the voting results?
I can read that to you. I just have to switch over to that screen. I have that it carried Kalila, Hannon, Morgan, Moser, Noble, Shelton, and Wilson abstained.
Okay, and Carol, what do you want the board to consider?
Well, there was a lot of discussion about perhaps bringing it back to address the breed division decrements and points, or Mark had suggested perhaps going back to the 5% decrement. And I don't know what the general feeling is of the board. And if they want the show rules committee to work on it.
Mark?
Why don't we just leave it up to the individual board members? If somebody wants to bring it up in December, then propose a motion and get it pre-noticed, and we'll vote on whatever that is. I mean, my inclination is to bring it back up in December with a motion to maintain the 5% decrement.
Mary Kay?
I want to comment. I do have one more comment at the end of the meeting, but not on this particular thing.
All right, then. Annette, did you speak on this? Was this one of your?
Yes.
Yeah, did you want
Yes,
to?
I would like to see, I'm interested in Mark's show rule also. I would like to see the decrement for second best to breed, the 95% thing removed. I'd like to see a rule that removes that. But only if I don't like that rule anyway, but if this show rule is going to stay, I'd like to see the decrement taken away there, the free point. That's what I want to see go away.
Okay, so you're going to work with Carol and Mary Kay.
I will. Yeah, I have a note to get with them.
Okay, George?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we've gone as far as we can go with this. If people want to propose other things, they can do it offline, but we really don't have a proposal in front of us to vote on.
Right.
So let's just move on.
Okay. Mary Kay?
Okay, so as you can see from many of these show rules that are items that were presented, I can provide you with statistics. I've got the statistics. If I don't have them, I will get them from James for you. My only request is that I have enough notice. There were some things that came in late, and I have a life outside of CFA. I know it's unimaginable that anybody does anything other than with cats, but you know, there are things to do here in Florida other than CFA work. So I would really appreciate it if people made sure they got me proposals early enough that I can help you with the statistics, help you writing the show rules. We have a good show rules committee. We have some people on there. When I give them something, they come back with comments that I didn't even think about, and they are good corrections. So please give me your suggestions and things to work on in a timely manner. And I would really appreciate that. Remember that the board report is due a week before the meeting. So I need like at least 2 weeks before the board report is due to really help you. That's all I wanted to say.
Hey, thank you, Mary Kay. It's 11:29. We're at break. Let's take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back at 11:40. Objection? Motion passed unanimously.
The Dayton Cat Fanciers included in their resignation a request that the club name not be reissued to any CFA club. My motion is that the club name Dayton Cat Fanciers shall not be reissued or reused by any other CFA club.
Kenny seconds.
Thank you, Kenny. Pam Delabar?
What happens if we get a club that wants to use the new Dayton cat fanciers.
George?
I agree with Pam. Dayton is not a unique descriptor. It's simply a city. And there may be other clubs in that area that want to use that as part of their name at some point in the future. So I don't think a club that is leaving CFA ought to be able to tell CFA not to use that name in the future, particularly when it's a generic term and not something unique. If they were, Exxon Cat Club, that's a unique name. Dayton is not. So I would oppose this motion.
John?
We had instances like that in my region when Hampshire left he basically walked away with 5 clubs, and Buffalo Cat Fancy is one of them. And people in Buffalo was very unhappy, and they form a new club. It's called Buffalo Cat Fanciers. So it can happen.
So John, are you supporting what George said, that if a
Yes.
club, okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, I'm going to call the vote on this one. If you're in favor, raise your hand. If you're opposed, raise your hand. Mark Hannon, George Eigenhauser, John Kalula, Paula Noble, Carol Kuznowski, Pam Delabar, Russell Webb, Yukika Hayata, Mike Shelton, Melanie Morgan, Pam Mosier, Sharon Roy, Annette Wilson. Please take your hand down. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. Kenny Curley, Kathy Dunham. Lower your hand. Rachel, call the vote, please.
That's 0 yes, 14 no, 2 abstentions.
Okay, this motion failed.
Okay, the other resignation is from North Shore Cat Club. My motion is to accept with regret the resignation of North Shore Cat Club effective January 2nd, 2022.
May I have a second, please? I didn't hear a second.
Daniel second.
Thank you. Discussion? No discussion, any objections? Oh, Pam, are you discussion?
I was just going to say that with this resignation goes a lot of history. If those who remember Lynn Beck and her bringing in the Japanese bobtails and being such a character, there's a lot of history that's actually with both of these clubs resigning. I wish somebody would someday put in one of the yearbooks history of some of these past clubs, because North Shore was really a mover and shaker in Northern Illinois.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Any objections? Seeing no objection, this motion passes unanimously. Okay, Carol.
Okay, the next item of business is a club regional reassignment request. The Sunshine Cat Club is requesting immediate reassignment from International Division China to the Europe region. The current secretary has held this office since January 2022 and resides in the Europe region, as do all other officers and members except one. Under normal procedures, the club would be eligible for reassignment in 2025. The club was originally accepted as a CFA club in December 2016, and their last show in China was in 2018. The club did not plan on renewing their CFA membership in 2022, which led to the change in officers and members. The club intends to be active and produce shows in the Scandinavian area of Europe. The Europe Regional Director supports this reassignment. And my motion is to approve the club, Sunshine Cat Club request for immediate regional reassignment.
May I have a second, please?
George will second.
Thank you, George. Discussion, George.
Yeah, not to be picky, just kind of pointing it out. CFA doesn't have a constitution anymore. We have bylaws. So
Okay.
there
Yep.
is no CFA Constitution Article
So
3
noted.
anymore.
Okay,
Yep.
so noted.
Thank you. Matthew Wong.
Yes, hi. Kathy and I both saw this, and then we were a little bit surprised and find it quite abnormal that a club founded in China, and how does it find a way to become a Region 9 club? Does someone else in this group has any light to throw into this, please?
Pam Delabar.
Sure, I can answer that, Matthew. One, Sophisticat Club used to be in Milwaukee, then ended up in San Antonio, and then finally in Tampere, Finland. Online Feline Fanciers was in California, came to Finland, and now is 44 Gatti in Italy. This club was going under. The person that now is in charge of the club was contacted and asked if they wanted to keep the club alive, and they have kept the club alive. In fact, they're waiting for this to be able to make sure the club stays active and put on shows. All they're waiting for is CFA's approval. So yes, Matthew, it happens. Clubs, instead of dying, get revitalized and reactivated, often from region to region.
Pam Mosier.
Yes. Now, is this club, where's the secretary? Did it used to resign in China?
Matthew, do you know that? Or Carol?
The secretary, as of 2021, was residing in China, but the club did not plan to renew their membership.
Okay.
Now the secretary that has taken over the club, along with the other officers and most members, except for one Chinese member, they reside in Europe region. And they saw this as an opportunity to offer more CFA events in the Scandinavian area of Europe.
My understanding is that if the secretary, once it moves, because this happens in the US all the time, that it has to reside in the region for 5 years before it can move. Now, that's my understanding. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I know that clubs here have done the same thing, and we've tried to put through amendments to the Constitution to get them to let go of these clubs within 2 to 3 years, and it's always failed. So I don't understand how come we're moving this club to Europe when the secretary, even though the secretary has changed, it's still got to stay in China for 5 years.
May I answer that?
Go ahead, Carol.
Okay. There is a provision in the CFA bylaws now that allows clubs to petition the board for reassignment sooner than the 5 years. So this is entirely legal according to our bylaws. And we have had reassignment requests from other clubs in the past that we have considered since this provision was put in place.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Pam Delabar.
I wrote that change, that amendment to the Constitution. And yes, I can tell you that Online Feline Fanciers, now 44 Gatti, did that very same thing. So it does happen. I can tell you this club is going into areas where right now we have no activity. So I'm excited.
Carol, do you have more comments?
No, I think I've said everything I could say.
All right, I have some questions. Carol, you mentioned that the club since 2021 resides in China, or the secretary resides in China?
The club was initially accepted in 2016. That was in China. And they remained in China through the membership year of 2021. And in other words, the membership list from 2021 showed that the officers and members resided in China. But they did not plan to renew their membership. They planned to drop out of CFA.
And you have notification of that?
I don't have a letter that said they planned to drop, but we have a letter from the secretary changing the officers to the individuals in Europe region.
Okay, so you do have that.
I have that plus a new membership list that shows all the members except for one Chinese member do reside in Europe region.
But that one Chinese member is not an officer, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and Matthew, you're just finding out about this now?
No, I saw this about 10 days ago, and then because it came to me and Kathy and saying, do we kind of okay this change? And we both said we find it a little bit abnormal, but as Palm said, maybe it happens, but surely we don't know how it linked, how they find each other, and how they coordinate this, but maybe it's not my right to know. So we were just curious. I mean, how come a club in China moved to Scandinavia? And Kathy pointed out that it obviously slightly changed the number of clubs that could vote in the future, but it sort of deal breaker. Just curious.
So Matthew, can you confirm that the original officers were going to disband the club?
I could follow up on that to check if they were going to.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
You did not know. Okay. I just want to be careful that the board isn't trying to come between two groups of officers here, and we're siding on one or the other. Pam, do you know more information about this? Are you more familiar with the new officers versus the old officers? Pam Delabar?
Yes, one, I am not a member of this club, so I want that to be upfront and well known. I don't find this as unusual as maybe Matthew does or Kathy does, because I've been part of doing the very same thing with two different clubs to get them aligned with their activity. So I personally do not know how they got in touch with each other. I know there's no way to troll for clubs. So obviously, I think it was more of a Persian connection than possibly anything else. I'm not quite sure about that. All I know is that the people involved are very upstanding, good people, and are not into doing anything through subterfuge.
And Aline, you have something from the original club secretary stating the change in officers?
I will look it up. I'm sure we do.
May I answer that?
Go ahead, Carol. You're on mute, Carol.
Sorry. I do have a letter. Yes.
You do have the letter from the original secretary.
Yes. Amber Goodright from Central Office was kind enough to forward that to me.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have some type of takeover, and especially when Matthew and Kathy were surprised about it. All right. Any other discussion on this? Pam Delabar?
In the past, we have never had to clear a club transferring from one area to another area or one region to another region. Is this something new you would like to put in?
Are you asking me or are you asking Carol?
I'm asking you because you're the one asking all the questions of Matthew and Kathy, did you know about this?
Well, I think it was just the way Matthew presented it. It was a surprise, and it just brought questions to me. And I know there was some questions or comments about the Dayton Club that was resigning, and there was members that were involved that wanted to maintain it, and they didn't. And I just wanted to make sure the board wasn't going to run afoul by approving this if things weren't in order.
Rich, I wouldn't be backing it if there was any chance of being foul.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Pam. Kenny?
Rich, I think you were correct in asking those questions. My question would be, why don't they just start a new club?
Pam?
Why? Why? Another 200 to CFA? Why? Kenny, did you move your club from your area down to Florida?
No, it hasn't qualified yet.
You're in the same region, so there should be no qualification.
Any other comments or questions on this? Matthew?
Hi, I mean, Pam, just the reason why I raised it, I'll be pretty clear here. You may recall in one board meeting, we rejected about quite a few application for China to apply for club. And there was a pretty lengthy conversation whether, we should approve new clubs in China. So, we have been seeing quite a lot of new clubs in China, and clearly last year, all the active clubs were being approached to vote. So when I see a club in China without anyone moving to Europe, there's no continuity of well, except one member of management, administration, and active member participants in a club from China to Scandinavia. So I was just wondering, and I think it's worthwhile to have this conversation here, because if some of the inactive clubs were China, maybe they see this. I just want to find out if there's a particular reason for such move. If we see more of this, then we should be a bit cautious, because clearly, I mean, getting a club from one region to another, I don't want it to be a arbitrage of the system of a group of participants. Instead of starting a new club, as you said, just saving $200, but then go through the registry and go to, oh, is there a club that's been inactive for 3 to 4 months? Maybe we could just bring it over. Now, as I understand, this is all within the rules, so I'm not saying no about it, but I think we're right to be curious. And until today, I didn't know you back it up. Thank you.
Carol?
I would like to just make one further comment. It's not unusual for a club to change regions or whatever, as Pam has mentioned, Pam Delabar. If we do not approve this request, the club will still operate in the Scandinavian area. The only thing we will have to address is anytime they want to have a show, produce a show, it will be considered out of region. So it will come to the board for approval, but they will still be able to operate in the Scandinavian area. It's just that they would have to file requests.
Pam Delabar?
Another thing, if this club is not transferred to its area of operation and is putting on a show as granted by the board of directors for an out of region, out of area show, it also will be voting as a club in the international division. So it has always behooved us to try to match the club and the area or the region in the area of activity.
George?
I just want to remind everyone, this is not a question of if, but when. If they operate in Europe for 5 years, they will become a European club, whether we decide yes or no. So this is inevitable. They're just asking to move it up a few years.
Very good. Pam, I don't have any objections to the club moving from one area to the other. I just wanted to make sure that everything was in order because Matthew was concerned and as was Kathy. And I just wanted to ask questions that was that I felt were important and people needed to know. Pam?
If you, in future instances, no matter whose areas are involved, would like to have the new director contact the representatives or the regional director of the old area to make sure that everything is copacetic, then maybe we can put that procedure in and take some hassle off of Carol.
I think that's a great idea because I was just set back a little bit when Matthew made his comment when this was brought up. And when a board member makes a comment of concern, I think we need to pay attention to that and explore all the different questions and concerns that are out there. So wonderful idea. I think that should be done. You want to make a motion and put that in? Well, we already have this motion. We can do that after we get through.
Well, actually, no, Rich, I don't. I don't think that we need more and more procedures piled onto what we already have and what's already in our bylaws.
Okay. Any further discussion on this matter? All right, I'm going to call for the vote. If you're in favor, raise your hand. George Eichenhauser, Carol Kuznowski, Paula Noble, Russell Webb, Pam Delabar, Mike Shelton, Kathy Dunham, John Kalila, Rachel Anger, Yukiko Hayata, Sharon Roy, Annette Wilson, Melanie Morgan, Pam Mosier. Can lower your hands. If you're opposed, raise your hand. No one is opposed. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. Mark Hannon, Kenny Curley. Rachel, please call the vote.
I have 14 yes, 0 no, 2 abstentions.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to make a motion on Pam's suggestion? Okay, seeing nobody wishes to make a motion. Carol, proceed.
Yes, we have 4 new club applications to consider today from 4 different countries: India, Singapore, France, and Thailand. The first application is from Elite Cat Fanciers Club. This club is located in Mumbai, a city on the west coast of India, and the capital of Maharashtra, a state in western region of India with a population of over 112 million and the second most populous state in India. The Mumbai metropolitan area itself has a population of about 20 million, making it the second most populous city in India. Mumbai is considered the financial, commercial, and entertainment capital of India. 2 members share a CFA cattery name, and other members plan to register their catteries if the club is accepted. Most members are actively exhibiting in another association and fund shows, and some have show production experience as a result. If accepted, this club plans to conduct educational events and clerking schools and produce 3 to 5 shows a year in Maharashtra initially, later expanding to other states in India. My motion is to accept Elite Cat Fanciers Club.
May I have a second, please?
Kenny seconds.
Thank you. Kenny, do you want to speak on this?
Yeah, we've met on a couple of occasions trying to decide and we've got one present club in India which is planning on having a show the second week in November. This would not be a rival club, but would be augmenting. And we're going to be encouraging other people throughout the country to form their own clubs and slowly grow CFA in that area. So So I do certainly support acceptance of this club.
Any other discussion on this? Any objections to the motion? Seeing no objections, this motion passes unanimously. Congratulations to Elite Cat Fanciers Club. Carol?
The next application is from Feline Fanciers Society of Singapore. This club is located in Singapore, officially the Republic of Singapore, an island country in Southeast Asia off the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula. With a population of over 5 million and its small area size, Singapore has the third highest population density in the world. Singapore has a highly developed competitive economy and attracts a large amount of foreign investment. This was a former CFA member club that was dropped in June 2020 and is now reapplying. The club did not renew their membership at that time due to the COVID pandemic. Prior to being dropped, the club produced annual shows and organized 2 International Division Award banquets held in Singapore. The club members have a variety of experience through working on these activities. 4 members are active CFA breeders and exhibitors. One of them is a CFA master clerk and associate judge. If accepted, the club plans to conduct educational seminars and produce 1 or 2 shows a year in Singapore. My motion is to accept Feline Fanciers Society of Singapore.
May I have a second, please?
Kenny will second.
Thank you. Cam Belivar?
Sorry, I was just going to do a standing second, so you didn't have to keep asking for a second.
Okay. Colleen, can you bring Bob Zenda in?
Yes.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, good morning. I am absolutely delighted to see Nadia and the group coming back to CFA. She also is our ID show scheduler, and I'm looking to see some great things and get our activity going again in Singapore. They actually were the only club in Asia that did anything with junior showmanship as well. So they've got a lot of stuff, got a lot of good ideas, and I think they'll be an asset to CFA.
Great, thanks, Bob. Stick with us, please. Any other discussion? Any objections? Seeing no objections, this motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Feline Fanciers Society of Singapore. Carol?
Yes, the next application is from La Révolution de Persian. While this club was based in Montsartou, a large residential village on the French Riviera, the club's primary area of CFA activity will be in Western France, where CFA shows have not yet been held. Most members are active CFA breeders and exhibitors, and the remaining members are breeders and exhibitors in other associations who also exhibit in CFA. 5 members have show production experience. 1 is a certified clerk, CFA certified clerk, and 1 has clerking experience. This is a breed club dedicated to the promotion and protection of the Persian and exotic breeds in Europe region. The club plans to provide educational seminars to help promote these breeds and CFA in general. If accepted, the club plans to produce shows in various cities in the western area of France, such as Toulouse, Rouen, Bordeaux, Saint-Emilion, and Limoges. My motion is to accept La Révolution de Persian.
Cam Belivar, you are the second.
Yes, I am the second.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to speak on this, Pam?
Yes, this club is exciting. They're very active, especially with the Persian. We're seeing a lot of anti-breeder, shall I say, CFA style Persian happening in Europe, most recently France. They are very active in keeping me informed, I know for sure, on what is going on and how we can counteract some of the things that are going on. For clarification, we have had shows in Toulouse and Rouen, but I'm excited to see us getting back into those areas because they are great areas and in the past have drawn lots of exhibitors and have had excellent shows. I'm thrilled to death. It's really a vibrant group, and I will be thrilled to have them.
Any further discussion? Any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, this motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, La Révolution des Persians of France. Carol?
The last application to consider today is Thai Smile Cat Club. This club is located in Nakhon Pathom, a small province to the north of and bordering Bangkok, the capital of Thailand. The province of Nakhon Pathom has a population of over 900,000, and the city of Bangkok has a population of over 10 million. All members except one are active CFA breeders and exhibitors. 3 members have show production experience and 1 has clerking experience. The club's main focus is to work together with existing clubs to help promote pedigree cats and CFA activities through clerking, assistance with show production, and help in funding various CFA show events. They also wish to support cat welfare and educate cat owners about proper care and grooming. This is an all-breed club, and if accepted, the club plans to produce 1 show a month in Bangkok and the surrounding area. My motion is to accept Thai Smile Cat Club.
Pam Delabar, you are still the second on this one as well?
Please.
Okay. Bob Zunda, please comment.
Yeah, thank you. This group has been ready to go from the very beginning. And so while they were waiting for their club application to be considered by the board, they borrowed a show license from the Sawadee Cat Club and put on a successful 4-ring show on the 17th of September, bringing in a couple of judges from the US, Thailand, and 2 associate judges as well. They're ready to go. They filled their 125 entry show, and one of the judges there has already come back with a show report and some photos that I'm providing to the newsletter editor for publication in the next issue. I certainly support their acceptance.
Thank you for your comments, Bob. Any additional discussion? Any objections? Seeing no objections, this motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Thai Smiley Cat Club. Carol, continue.
And that's all I have for club applications and membership. Thank you.
Okay. We have Carol, the mentor newbie.
Yes, the report was received by me at just 9 o'clock this morning, and I haven't had a chance to review it. So I have no comments at this time.
Okay. Next agenda item is the.
Do we need to table that till later in the day? Or are we going to take it up on a different date?
May I speak?
Go ahead, Carol.
Because the report was received so late, I don't think we should address it at all. That's my personal opinion because it just came in. I have not had a chance to read it as I was busy preparing for other agenda items today. If somebody wants to address it later, I guess we can, but my personal feeling is to just let it be included in the minutes as is.
Pam Delabar.
Per your message to me, I have changed reflected the name change for both the Mentor Newbie Committee and the Youth Feline Education Program. I have changed those names in the notes.
Okay, thank you.
In these notes, not from yesterday.
Okay. Annette?
Yes, thanks. They don't have any action items in their report. So I don't think we need to spend any time on it.
Thank you for pointing that out, Annette. Mark?
I don't think it should be included in the minutes either. They didn't submit it in a timely fashion. There's a deadline for getting stuff to us, and something that we haven't even had a chance to read yet should not be appearing in the minutes.
Rachel? If the report was submitted late, what have you done in the past? Have you included those in the minutes or have you held on to them?
To be honest, in recent memory, I can't remember ever receiving a report the day after the board meeting started. There's no action items in the report. I believe it was just an update. And if you would like to, if the board would like to move this to the December meeting, I think that would be fine. It's just informational. So either way, no harm done. But I'm
Carol?
happy to do whatever the board decides. It's, you know, to me, there were problems in the transmission, but everyone else got their report in, and those are in the minutes.
Okay, Carol?
I would be fine with tabling this or requesting that it be resubmitted for the December board meeting. I don't think we can, I don't want to table it. I would rather just have the chair resubmit it for the December board meeting.
Okay, sounds good. George, you had your hand up. Did you have a comment?
Carol fixed my problem.
Okay, very good. We will move on to the next agenda item, Youth Feline Education Program. Kathy Dunham?
Yes, the program has worked really hard to rewrite the guidelines. The guidelines are here. I will try to answer any questions. Sherry Schaefer is currently unavailable for today's meeting, but I can get answers from her if needed.
She is in the audience.
Oh, is she in the audience? Great.
I'll bring her in.
Please promote her.
She's currently on, she's in the meeting and she's, oh, now she's no longer muted. There she is.
I was texting you, Kathy, to tell you I'm here.
Okay,
Hi, Sherry.
Sherry,
Welcome.
please present your report.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank Desiree and the marketing committee for all their hard work on the renaming. I actually like the CFA Junior Fanciers. It's very cute. And Mark, your hand is raised. Do you have a question for me?
Mark?
I just wanted to compliment you on the tremendous amount of work involved in preparing all this for us. It's something that I've been personally waiting for, and I'm delighted to see.
Thank you very much. George, your hand was up. I'm sorry. I don't mean to take over. Sorry.
Yeah, since the only action item is the revised guidelines, maybe we should have the revised guidelines up on the screen.
Okay. So Rich, how would you like me to present it? Just give you an overview, answer questions? What all would you like? What all would you all like to know?
Does anybody have any questions on the guidelines that are presented?
I will say I forgot to add agility under show activity. And so I already have a note to myself to add that. I really enjoyed the, there's a special youth part of the CFA website that's really helpful for kids to go to that I included under activities. I think I actually wasn't aware that was there until I went searching through the CFA website. And I really like it. So I'm not sure who was in charge of that, but it has a great example of how to show your cat. What do the ribbons mean about different breeds to introduce juniors to our fancy. And I wanted to make sure that I included activities that were outside of showing and cat producing, just because I would like to reach out to school districts and schools and youth that are possibly not yet in the show hall to bring them in. That is why I did things like working in the community and doing fundraising. We just had a youth in Region 6, Kathy knows, that did a fundraiser for a shelter in their area, and he did some amazing artwork and raised some money for them. I know what Kathy's told me is that we have some of our breeders and exhibitors who go actually out into the community, into the schools, and do work with kids who are working with things about cats. I made sure I wanted to add things for registering your cat, whether it be in a cat companion household pet activity or purebred, because I know we're wanting to push both of those programs. I also wanted to make sure that we included things like helping out with the show, having our kids be able to do gate and get earning activities for that, for helping with raffle, for helping set up rosettes, for basically whatever they're interested in. I want the kids to be invested in this and for them to do things that they're interested in. So I wanted to give them lots of activities. I also kind of increased the levels of achievement from yearly to the entire time they're in the program, just based upon things I've been seeing with, at least we're getting more shows now, but I know that kids nowadays are very busy in all of their extracurricular activities and schools, that I wanted to give them time to build up levels of achievement over time. And I decreased the amount of, there's 5 areas, decrease the number of areas for them to participate in order to earn those levels of achievement, in case they're more in the community than necessarily involved in our shows yet. And the main goal is to kind of get them involved with cats and getting to learn what we do, and hopefully building up the next generation of breeders and exhibitors.
Terry, thank you. Kathy
You're
Dunham, will you make the motion, please?
I make the motion that we accept the guidelines.
Melanie
as
seconds. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Mark?
As one of the chairs of the marketing committee, I want to make sure Sherry understands that we're going to be revising the website. I'd ask you to take a look at what's already there. You've been very complimentary about what's there, but you might want to make some changes, updates, what have you. I also would encourage you, if this passes, and I assume it will, to share it with the webmistress so we can get it up on the website, and then you can start advertising it with the link to what you've got here in the way of guidelines.
Absolutely. You guys have Desiree let me know when those are updated on the website. And I was going to actually ask her if she wouldn't mind taking a look at these guidelines and putting in the new logo and maybe a header for me. She's very creative, and everyone on the marketing committee. I'm very impressed with all of you. Thank you very much.
Melanie?
Hi, Sherry. The feeling is mutual. I am just blown away by the job that you've done here, and so excited about the direction we're going. I think this is a huge opportunity for us to start to fill the pipeline, so to speak. And I love the change of name. I think it's consistent with other fancies. I think it puts people in a role. I love the expansions of options. And I urge everyone on this board to support Sherry and her endeavors here. It's really, truly is, much like kittens, these people are our future.
Thank you, Melanie. Any further discussion on the motion? Any objections to the motion? Shelley, do you have a comment?
I did have a comment. The motion was to adopt the rules as is, but I know that the presenter just mentioned that she wanted to add agility. Would the motion better be amended to say that she can add agility where she noticed that it was missing, and then it would get support that way?
Kathy and Melanie, are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, total agreement.
Okay, George?
I would rather see what the agility addition is before we vote it in. So I think we should approve it as is, and if there's a change to be made later, we should address that change on its own merit.
You wish me to submit that for December?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, Kathy and Melanie, I'm back to you. You want to,
We're fine with that. I can work with Sherry and get that ready for December.
and Melanie, you okay?
Not sure that I think it's necessary, but okay.
Okay. Shelley, do you have anything else? Okay, are there any objections to accepting the revised guidelines as presented? Seeing no objections, the motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Sherry. Great job.
Thank
And
you.
come back, you and Kathy come back in December with the agility edition.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next we have grades and standards. Annette?
Thank you. I don't have any actual motions. I have some items that I'd like some feedback on. And they come from the meeting that the board had with the breed council secretaries in June. The first one is regarding breeders who become eligible to join their breed council to join as soon as they qualify and apply. I had some discussion with Aline about this last spring, and it was a topic we discussed at the board meeting, and I didn't get a lot of, if I recall, any objections about it. Basically, it would require a change to the bylaws. And as I say in here, we wouldn't lower the fee if someone became eligible on August 15th because they bred a grand or their cat branded or whatever, and they wanted to apply, they could apply and join their breed council at that time. However, they wouldn't be able to vote because voting on the breed council requires joining by August 1st. So all it would do would be to take their money and allow them to participate in the breed council discussions. And there seemed to be a lot of interest in this from the breed council secretaries. So what I was suggesting I do, and Mary Kay offered to help me with this, would be to write up a change to the bylaws, an amendment. And my question is, would the board be interested in sponsoring this amendment at the annual then?
Pam Delabar?
I agree, Annette. I think the board should do this. Anything that we can do to keep people engaged and give them more of a feeling of identity with CFA, and especially being a breed council member. That is a biggie. I still remember when I first qualified to be a Siamese breed council member. It was a big deal for me. And look what we are now. However, I fully support you in this.
Melanie?
I know that in the past, the barriers to this have been that it's an issue with our bylaws and that it perhaps makes things difficult from central office's point of view. But honestly, I think it's worth it. This is really, really important. Our breed council should be something that people are excited about. And when you've got someone who's brand new, who's finally made their goal of, qualifying for the breed council, and they're told that they can't apply for months, we've lost an opportunity there. And I really hope that the board will sponsor this.
Aline?
We did talk about this. I think it's a great idea that people can join whenever they want. However, there will be a great deal of confusion for someone who joins August 15th, and they're going to wonder, why can't they participate in the balloting and all of that? They won't get a ballot. We will receive questions from people they won't understand. It really complicates the process. What we could do possibly instead, we can certainly accept the membership and process it. It's just that it would be for the following membership year. That way there would be no confusion on their part as far as what year they're supposed to be participating in. So that's really my only concern.
Annette?
Thank you. And I understand that concern. I guess what I thought of, and we can work on this a little bit, what I thought of is that it would be an amended application form that would be up starting on August 1st, that would make it clear that it was for the current year and it would have the dates for that year. But it was only for participation in the Breed Council. There was no, they wouldn't be allowed to vote. I think if we make it clear to people what they'd actually be applying for. The other point where there would be some confusion is right now, I know central office doesn't like to take applications effective, the new season's effective May 1st. They don't like to take applications way in advance of that because it is confusing to people. So we basically have to have more than one type of application available, one for the current year, one for the next year, and let people make the choice. If we can somehow manage that, and that's going to be the key. Now that we have you can pay for 1 year or 2 years, depending on what year it is and so on. I agree that it can be confusing, but I'm hoping we could work something out that will work for everybody.
George?
This sounds complicated and like it's going to need a lot of work, but I agree with Eileen's suggestion that maybe the thing to do is, to make it clear, okay, you're joining now, you're a member for most purposes, but we're going to call you a member next year for voting purposes. But I'm not opposed to the idea. I think this needs a little bit of work. So let's send this back to committee and have them come up with something, and we'll look at it later.
Eileen, do you have more comments?
Yeah, just one more quick comment. The central office, we don't care when we take applications. So it's not more difficult for us one way or the other. I just want to make sure that that's clear. It doesn't matter. We can take applications at any time. I just am concerned. We are the recipients of all the questions, and maybe not everybody else, but people get confused. Now we have an amended application and a rapid renewal application, and a regular application renewals. It just gets very confusing to people. And they wonder why. So, but we'll take this offline and we can certainly come back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Annette?
Okay, so I guess what my feedback I wanted was, and part of this is, should we work on an amendment, and that the board would be willing to support it if we can work out all the details of implementation with central office.
That's what I'm hearing in that.
Okay.
And we'll work on the amendment for the bylaws. You'll want to work with Cindy Bird, Legal Advisory Committee.
Okay. And keeping in mind that an amendment to the bylaws, if accepted by the delegation, wouldn't be in effect, right, until the following year?
Shelley, is that correct?
Immediately.
Oh, it's immediately. Okay. I knew some things were immediate, but I never know what they are. Okay. All right. Number two is an issue that also came about via the question at the Breed Council Secretary's meeting with the board, and that is whether or not CFA should state opposition to breeding together cats with structural mutations, where both breeds have structural mutations, which could produce cats with multiple structural mutations. Examples would be cats with short legs and curled ears and or bobtails. There's already some of these examples being shown in the household pet or fun shows. Is that something we should adopt, first of all, and then put somewhere either in our general registration rules or more openly on our website? I know in Europe there are issues with breeding cats with structural mutations, but there also seem to be a number of enthusiastic people who think it's really a great idea to combine some of these. I have personally seen a cat in a household pet competition in our area here in the Midwest. Obviously it's spayed, but just as obviously someone got it because they thought it looked cool. It has curl back ears and a very odd wiry coat and a bobtail. In fun shows in Asia, I have seen quite a few of these things, whether they're munchkinized breeds or whatever. It was a question that came up, and I thought it would be worth bringing to the board.
Pam Delabar.
First, I want to say be very careful if we decide to do this, because for the American curl, there is absolutely no negative genetic connotations to having the curled ears. not like what you have with Scottish Folds. We need to be very, as I said, very careful on how we would state this. Yes, the little munchkin curled thing that we had at the fun show in Jakarta was so incredibly cute. I couldn't help myself but make it best, as did 3 others. So we just have to be, the bobtails don't particularly have any kind of horrendous genetic defect. It's not within our breeding parameters. In fact, we don't have any, the curls no longer have a domestic outcross, which they should, but we don't have that to bring in. I guess I'm very concerned about how we state this. Yes, we have come forth and say we want healthy, strong, structurally correct cats. Well, when they get to the structurally correct, that's when you're going to get some of the anti-breeder type people who are going, well, what about those strange ears? What about that bobtail? I mean, bobtails are now outlawed in Switzerland, as are some other breeds like Devon Rex and Cornish Rex and a few others, because they don't have appropriate whiskers to protect them. We need to be very circumspect about how we approach this. I am concerned.
George?
I'm more than concerned, I'm opposed. I can understand keeping out harmful mutations, things that cause the cat harm, that make it less able to function as a cat. But when you have purely cosmetic mutations, it makes absolutely no sense to me to say a curled ear is okay, a bobtail is okay, but a bobtailed curled-eared cat is evil and has to be called out by CFA as being something wrong. That's just arbitrary and capricious. I understand, wanting to keep out some of the weird, twisties and some of these really harmful mutations. That's not what we're talking about. Why would we put in our rules of registration that we don't want a particular type of breeding to be done when the rules of registration are about registering CFA approved breeds? And it's just not a good place for it. I know we think we know what the future holds, and I know we think we can guide CFA far down the road, but I can remember when we said we would never allow Bengals until we did. And so maybe someday down the road, we will look at bobtail curls with a different eye than we look today. I don't think we should be tying the hands of breeders who are working with cosmetic mutations, even if they are structural, as long as they don't inhibit the ability of a cat to function as a cat. I think beyond that, we should let the future unroll in its normal course.
Thank you, George. Annette?
Okay, that's fine. I'll go back to the breed council secretaries with that. It's not something I particularly had a strong feeling about, but enough people jumped on it that I thought I'd bring it to the board. But I absolutely understand. Okay, my third item is that we have several breeds contemplating some additional new colors and patterns, or newly discovered or newly named colors and patterns. In all 3 instances, it's likely these colors and patterns may occur at some point in other breeds. And while we do like to use the advancement of new colors matrix that is mostly written for a specific color and pattern that is new to a specific breed and or has been disqualified or not allowed in that breed, and now they want to bring it forward. In cases like this, and in the last one I can think of that we did this way was the amber color and the Norwegian forest cats. I think the best way to look at these is to actually have a presentation for the board at the February meeting with a short PowerPoint by the breed council secretaries who are proposing these new colors or patterns, to explain the genetic background, to show us some examples, and then we decide if we want to accept that color or pattern. And then from then on, any breed that comes in every color and pattern wouldn't have to go through a huge long process. So we are going to have 3 presentations, or we're planning to have 3 presentations at the February board meeting on these patterns. And I just wanted to let you know that that's coming and get some feedback if you think that's a good way to handle this.
Pam Delabar?
I have not handled a Carpati. I have been invited to go searching through the Carpathian Mountains to look for them, for where that supposedly originated. We do have one, a Carpati pattern on order with a friend who does come across these cats to use in another association's breeding program. I did last weekend guest judge bimetallic, and this was in the Siberians, and they're actually working on getting homozygous bimetallic, which I find interesting. I have seen the sunshine corn colors in the cats in other associations. I think your approach on this is really good, Annette. And if I get my hands on a Carpati, I'll be happy to bring one in. But they are interesting. The bimetallic we're seeing more and more. And I also got to judge a couple of amber Norwegians at that show too.
George?
I'm fine with the procedure, but I've made the point before that if somebody plans to do a PowerPoint presentation, please send it to us in advance as well. I like to be able to review these things ahead of the meeting rather than just discovering them live at the board meeting. So I would encourage anybody doing a PowerPoint presentation for any reason to submit it to the board in advance, along with, by the deadline for board reports.
Annette?
Yes, they know what the date is. They have to have it to me by. So, and I have Eileen and I have a conference call on the bimetallics on Tuesday with the Breed Council Secretary presenting it, and Paul Patton. So we'll be sure that they're prepared so that you all will have plenty of time to take a look at this.
Nat,
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Annette.
Yeah.
George?
Okay, we're going into legislation right now. You have the report. There are a couple of things I'd like to add. The legislative report was kind of cobbled together while I was away at Pet Night, so I didn't really give that topic its full justice. After 2 years of not having a live presentation at Pet Night, it was kind of hard to put the band back together. So I reached out for help, and Melanie Morgan and Kathy Calhoun agreed to help with Pet Night, which I think is the first time we've ever had 3 board members together at Pet Night. Melanie then reached out to Susan Cook Henry, maybe did a little arm twisting, and got Susan on board. And this was the first year that we were actually able to bring a cat. And so Susan volunteered her cream boy, Jamie. I want to start by saying thank you to Melanie and Kathy and Susan. I could not have done this without you guys. I appreciate your help. And far and away, Jamie was the star of Pet Night. Everybody was coming over. Everybody wanted to paw him. Everybody wanted to touch him. Everybody wanted to pick him up. Susan had infinite patience, letting people touch him, play with him, pick him up, take selfies. We got a really good booth. I think the promoters of Pet Night were just as happy that we were able to finally bring a cat as we were, because they gave us, normally the tables for the sponsors are packed together shoulder to shoulder without a lot of room. They gave us space on both sides so we could have crowds gather around us. And there was pretty much a crowd around us for 2 hours wanting to see Jamie. And I'm not going to go through all the trials and tribulations the setup crew went through to get there, but the last bump in the road they had to overcome was just before setup at Pet Night started. There was a suspicious package somewhere on Capitol Hill, and the Capitol Police started shutting down the roads all around where we were holding Pet Night, redirecting traffic away. And Susan's knowledge of DC helped navigate us into Pet Night and get our people there. And that's what I wanted to say about that. I've gotten some feedback from the Publications Committee that some of our legislative articles may be a bit dry and boring. So Pet Night is a happier topic. We've been asked to do a couple of articles. I believe we've already submitted the article for the October e-newsletter. And then we're going to be doing a slightly longer article for probably the December online magazine. When I was doing some research on some of the background information, I discovered a legislative committee report from October of 2000, in which Joan Miller talked about that being our 4th year at Pet Night. Well, counting on my fingers, 2000, and it's 22 years later, we've been doing Pet Night for 26 years, not 24. So I just want to make that clear as well. I know that Melanie and Kathy have a lot of energy on putting together a debriefing session to go over some of the things that we did at Pet Night and some things we can do to improve it in the future. I've always done Pet Night as a legislative function, and I've always been focused on how does this help me with legislation. But the consortium that puts on Pet Night are a lot of companies that we could be friends with on a lot of other levels. You know, CFA is a registry of cats. We're not a lobbying group. Our legislative effort is just a thin slice of what we actually do. And it's the same for these other companies. You know, I saw Melanie schmoozing one of the people from Mars Pet Care. And I think that's the kind of thing we should be doing in the future. So that's one of the things we're going to be looking at, is how to treat this not just as a legislative function, but as a broader CFA function. And so that's something I think we're going to be working on in future years. And those are my additions. And unless somebody has any questions, I'm done.
Anybody have any questions for George? No questions, George. You have the next item?
Yep.
2 items.
Every cat. You have the report. And once again, I have a small addendum. After the report was submitted, we held our Every Cat board meeting this past Wednesday, like 4 days ago. We approved 6 research grants totaling just under $200,000 on a variety of different topics. I'm probably not supposed to talk about them yet until the contracts are signed and everything's done, but keep an eye on the Every Cat website. There'll be an announcement shortly of this round of grant reviews. And that was my addition. And again, unless there are questions, I'm done.
George, I don't see any questions, any hands for questions.
Okay, COVID-19 committee. As you all know, there's a little bit of discussion about whether the COVID pandemic is over or not. I know President Biden says one thing and the CDC says something else. The bottom line is the situation has been evolving for a long time. At the beginning, a lot of what was being done, quite honestly, was the CDC throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks. And so we were making changes rapidly and frequently. The situation is stabilized to the point that while we do believe that the guidelines that we currently have in place probably need to be revised, once we accomplish this revision, we're probably in a situation where instead of automatically renewing it every few months or once a year, we can just leave it in place until there's a significant event or some change that requires us to go back and redraw it. So our 2 action items are approve the changes to our COVID requirements document and approve our changes to the attendee advisory poster. Probably the most significant change in the COVID-19 requirements is that we've moved, can we scroll all the way down to the changes? Is that we've moved the requirement that the poster being used to move it down to recommended. The reality is that clubs aren't really putting it up, or at least not all clubs are. We're not going to go enforce it. We're not going to be, doing protests against clubs that don't put it up. So there's no real reason to call it mandatory if in fact it's only recommended. So that is one of the most significant changes. We've removed some of the specific items that no longer apply, simplified, clarified, pared it down. And my motion is that the board adopt the revised minimum COVID-19 requirement and recommendations document effective immediately. And at this point, we're not asking that it have any termination date.
Carol, thank you, Carol. Any discussion? Any objections to George's motion? Seeing no objection, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
George?
And then the next item is the attendee advisory poster. And again, it is constantly getting shorter as we remove some of the things that no longer apply. Our real focus at this point is just warn people that, there are risks involved. CFA can't guarantee your safety. And to remind people that if there are local requirements that you mask or do something else, you still have to follow local requirements. And the individuals who want to mask can go ahead and mask. We just don't want people fighting over that. If the CDC says about 40% of us should probably be masking for a variety of reasons. So individuals who choose to mask, they're still allowed to continue to do so. And I move we adopt the new COVID-19 attendee advisory effective immediately.
Carol seconds.
Thank you, Carol. Any discussion? Any objections? Motion passes unanimously. George?
Okay, and then just my final comments. Less is happening and less rapidly than has been happening before. So it is likely at this point, we're not asking the COVID-19 committee be disbanded, but we're probably going to go on the back burner and be used on an as needed basis from here on forward. If there are questions about COVID, if there are concerns about some of the things we've done, we can call together a meeting. But for now, we're just basically going to be available as needed, I guess is the best way to put it. And I'm done.
Thank you, George, to you and your committee. Next item on the agenda is kitten scoring issue. Paula,
Yes,
you're going to take this one?
yes. You can see the background on this very easily. We have at least one, possibly more, but at least one or two that I have been informed of, kittens in Region 3 that will be unable during their 4-month kitten career to attend a Region 3 show. The first one I was made aware of, the dates are here in the background. And you can see by these dates that there's no way that this kitten with this rule in show rule 36 can qualify for a regional win. I'm asking, my motion is to ask for an exception for this kitten. Again, there may be others in other regions. We need to have some kind of a mechanism where these kittens can get their regional win if their kitten career doesn't allow them to show within their region due to no shows.
Okay, Paula, would you read your motion, please?
Make an exception for this kitten to show rule 36, then under the National Regional Divisional Assignment number 4, to be eligible for a regional award, including a regional breed award. A cat, kitten, or household pet must be shown at least once in the competitive category in the region of final assignment. Again, I I know that this came up originally a year ago at the October meeting. It was tabled until the February meeting where it was voted down to extend the exception. I understand that, and I understand why. But again, there needs to be some way to get these kittens that cannot attend a show in their regional assignment due to no shows.
Okay, thank you. May I have a second, please?
8 seconds.
Kenny, thank you. Rachel?
Thank you. Paula has done a great job of laying out why it's necessary in this kitten's case. I don't remember why we voted down another request for an exception, to be honest. What she's done here is she's really bringing up 2 points to approve the exception for this kitten and to come up with something, a mechanism to do this for the future. This is a great template. She's explained why the kitten was unable to meet the rule. It's not within the exhibitor's ability to comply with the rule, and they should receive an exception. So if someone wants an exception in the future, they should lay it out just like this. When was the kitten born? What happened in the region? And why wasn't it able to fulfill the rule? So I'm completely in support. Thank you.
Mark?
I don't understand why we're limiting it to this one particular kitten, why we don't have a blanket policy for any cat or kitten that is not eligible to attend a show within their region, because there are no shows within their region during the required time frame. Why would we have anybody else come to the board for such an exception? Why can't we just pass something broad saying something similar to this has to be provided to the central office, and if they agree there are no shows within that time frame, then exception is granted?
Eileen, do you have an answer to Mark's question?
Yes, I was just going to mention that we can do that just like we did last year. We know which cats are being shown. We know the kitten was being shown. We can determine if there was a show within that region during the proper time frame. It's not something that we can easily determine on a regular weekly basis. I'm not sure, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's certainly something that we can apply across the board should the board decide to grant an overall exception to that rule.
Thank you, Eileen. Paula, are you willing to amend your motion?
Yes, I am.
Kenny, are you willing to accept the amended motion?
Yes.
Okay, so the amended motion is going to be make an exception for all kittens. Is that correct?
Kittens. Yes, and I address kittens only because cats and premiership cats, adults have the whole show season. I doubt seriously we're going to have very many regions that don't have shows at all at this point in time.
Carol?
I'd like to see something else added to the general motion that includes the fact that if there is no show in the kitten's region of residence, because we don't want just any kitten to be able to get an award if they choose not to attend a show in their region. So I think if we add that line, something along that effect, I would be happier with that.
Carol, would you read what you're proposing for the record?
Let me think about this for a minute. Make an exception for kittens. Make an exception to show rule 36, blah, blah, for kittens who are not eligible to attend a show in their region.
Okay.
And then on to be able, quote the rest of the rule. But I think something like that would cover it.
Rachel?
Somebody have a better one?
Thank you. I will read you what I put. When no show takes place in a kitten's region of residence, make an exception for all kittens to show rule, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And I'd like to add something about central office making the change.
I like Rachel's version.
James?
What do we do if there is an owner on the co-owner on the kitten that does live in a region that has had a show? And that kitten could have attended that show and they still have the opportunity to switch regions.
Mark?
What I was proposing was that we put the responsibility on the owner of the cat to notify the central office. I don't think it should be a burden on the central office to, I know they do at the end of the year, go through and verify, but I think it would make things much simpler if you said that the owner of the cat or kitten was responsible for providing information similar to what Paula has here, to verify that, you know, there were no shows in their season and in their region. I would think in the case of a co-owned cat, if the co-owner had a show in their region, then this would not apply. It had an available show.
George?
I'm starting to get confused by what we're doing here, and trying to wordsmith it on the fly is complicated. We've got a lunch break coming up. My suggestion is that we table this until after lunch, give people a chance to actually like think through their ideas rather than, you know, just throwing things off the top of our heads. Maybe we can come up with a wording that everybody's going to be happy with.
Rachel?
If I can try one more time, I may have it here.
Go ahead.
When no show takes place in a kitten's region of residence at the owner's request to central office, make an exception for all kittens to show rule 36, so on and so forth.
And Belivar?
I was going to say, we don't need to get into co-ownership and who could have done what to whom. You can have co-owners sitting in Europe and a co-owner sitting in Texas, and it makes no never mind who's got which show when. Each kitten has a primary residence, co-owner or not, and that's what we need to follow, is the primary residence.
Paula, are you in agreement with amending your motion to what Rachel presented, or do you want to withdraw your motion and let Rachel make the motion?
No, I'm in agreement with the way Rachel stated that.
Okay, so that will be your amended motion.
Yes.
Agree, Rich.
Kenny?
Yep, I agree.
Rachel?
Just want to add effective immediately.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
I think
Aline?
we probably want to specify for the 2022. Oh, it actually already does say 2022, 2023 show season, or it should say that.
But it
In other
doesn't say it
words,
in the motion as
doesn't
amended.
say it. And it should.
I really think this ought to be wordsmith, typed up, thrown up on the screen so we can all look at it, rather than trying to do this off the top of our heads.
We okay bringing this back after lunch?
Yes, Rachel, can we work on this?
Okay, let's table it and then we'll bring it back after lunch. All right, I have 1:05. I got lunch set at 1 o'clock. Let's break for lunch for 30 minutes. 1:35, we will return.